Alrighty, hi friends. I'm back to finally try and start on my quilt. I have it laid out on the filling. This is how I'm going to set it up. So I'm going to start by sewing these two rows together. And once I'm done with that, then I'll go ahead and sew these, and then this, and then this, and that's what I'm going to end up doing. What you might want to do is take a picture. I already have a picture of how these squares are set up so that you don't lose the pattern that you're going to create. So how I'm going to start doing it is just by flipping this first row onto the second row. And I just know that I am going to pick up each one as I go. And that's how I'm going to sew along this line here. Okay? From the top, I'm just going to sew down. So I'm just going to flip the first one over to the second square all the way down. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to choose to sew 1/4 of an inch on each edge. So that's what I'm going to do with every one. So I'm choosing to do 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it. And then from then on, I think I'll be able to tell how far it is once I get started. And I'll just keep going. I'm seriously thinking that my video is going to be very dark. I don't have good lighting, but I'm going to go ahead and do my best here. And so I already marked it, the spot right here. That's 1/4 of an inch from, and that's where I'm going to sew. I'm using a blue thread simply because it's for a boy and I like the accent of a blue thread on there. So therefore, I chose a blue thread. Okay, let's get started. Let's see how it goes. Make sure that your two materials, your two squares, are lined up at the edge. They're not going to be exact size for some reason, even though I measured every square to cut it. Believe it was 4 by 4, if I'm not mistaken, or 4.5 by 4.5 inches. I was originally going to sew 1/2 inch around, but I decided against it. So I'm doing 1/4 of an inch hem around. So, yes, 1/4 of an inch stitch. And I'm just going to keep going here. Just try to keep it okay. And here I'm going to go ahead and get the next set that was right underneath it. Make sure I line those up together. And I'm going to go ahead and measure the 4th here, just for the first few, just so that I can try to keep it as even as possible. And so I'm going to go ahead and finish that entire first 2 rows that I'm sewing together. And I'm just going to keep stitching. I'm just going to leave a little space in between. I'm going to keep stitching from one set of squares to the next, and then I'll show you when I've done that first 2 rows. Right here, I'm just about to mark one more over here, the last 2 of the first 2 rows. And I'm going to go ahead and do the 1/4 inch. I'm just kind of marking it a little bit roughly along the edges. This is just so I try to keep a straight line, and so that they all match, because once you put it together you want them to be aligned, otherwise you're going to have crooked squares. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sew this last one on here. And go ahead and just keep sewing along, just kind of following where I marked all the way to the end. And let me get the starting, here we go, this one. This is my scrap that I lead and then finish off with right there. And we'll take a look at it. Okay, so like I said, we sewed the whole entire first 2 rows, and you just kind of, keep going. It's okay if they're connected. You're just gonna trim them off. And so once you open it up, it's gonna be like that once they're connected. Okay. And as we go along, we're then gonna connect all of it together, right? Okay, so now we have these 2 connected. What we're gonna do next is we're going to connect the second to that third one. And so how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take, excuse me, this part and put the front on top of the front of the other one. Okay. And then I'm going to sew the same amount of space on this side, and then once they're together, then it's going to open up again and it's going to be connected at this point here. Okay, so that's going to be the process. So once this one's done, this row here connected to the middle row here, then you go ahead and do the next row and then the next row, and you're just connecting the next one over, laying the next one over on top to connect them. And then at the very end, once we do all those rows, then we're going to do, all those columns actually, then we're going to do all the rows that are going to connect these to the one prior to the one on top. And then we'll do that. Okay.